guess I'm just confused on like I'm not sure the right word, but like the way it's aligned.
Okay.
Is it just like after you type that, it's just like wherever you put it, that's how it's going to show up when you call it?
Yes, exactly. So I'll switch over to the scenes by charm. So if we go up to the top of this, the triple quote here, whether it's 3 single ticks or 3 double quotes, doesn't matter. That preserves white space. Meaning that you can hit the enter key here, drop to another line, and you're still inside the string. And all the indentation you put here is also preserved. If you were to try to do that with just one quote and then go to the next line, you'd see that you get essentially a syntax error. If PyCharm's trying to help me out by adding in the extra pieces I would need to make that valid Python. But if I want to put new lines, multi-line string, I've got to use the 3 quotation marks. Okay, and Python treats single quotes and double quotes the same. So a string can be defined with the double quote or the single quote. You just have to be consistent. You can't mix and match, right? That won't work. But you can put double quote there.
Thank you, sir. And then one follow-up question. Is there I know in MATLAB you have that like command window where you can like kind of play around with the variables as you're creating them in the program?
Yeah.
Does PyCharm have something like that? I know the debugger was kind of close, but I'm not sure if that's how it's supposed to be used per se.
It is. Now if we put the debugger here. Now the only trick is that this program uses the input command to get text prompts from the user, which kind of interferes with the mechanism that PyCharm uses to also get your text input. So once we would start running Battleship, for example, the debugger will work better. We won't be using the input command. But you can hit a breakpoint here and then press debug. And when you get to a particular line, then you can see the state of the code here. And once so you can say word index. This would be like the MATLAB command prompt, like the interactive window here. So you're executing code in the context of the program.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. So you can switch between the debugger and the console view there. But typically, the debugger view is what you want to be doing, because this allows you can click on these here and actually edit them like inside of these, visual structure. So that should give you what you want as well. All right, so anybody else? All right, so either everyone is like super squared away with Python, or people are super lost, and that's what's hard with the Zoom situation here. I am putting a fair burden on you to teach yourself. If this is not going well, right, I'm going to put it back on you to tell me that, hey, that book makes no sense and PyCharm collapsed and I've can't figure it out. We can change the structure. But after today, I'm going to expect, if I don't hear from you, I'm going to assume the best. Okay. So why don't I, just to make us to get through some content here, I'll just go through Hangman and sort of point out the important pieces. Okay, interrupt me at any point if you have a question, right, or something else you want to talk about. But I'm also recording this, and I'll put it up on the class drive after we talk. Okay, but at the beginning of every program, we'll import our libraries. That's like pound include in C, MATLAB, we don't have that. Everything is imported for you automatically in MATLAB. But we're going to specifically request random because we're going to want to actually get some randomness in this program. Like we want to pick a random value out of the dictionary. Of course, this wasn't in there. Here are these triple quote strings, which allow me to put white space in, and that just allows you to draw this scaffold with ASCII characters, rather than worrying about actually having to draw, things to the screen like we'll do later this week. So you see, here's just kind of this flip book story of this guy slowly getting built on the scaffold here. Okay, so then we've got all of the words, and notice that they're separated by spaces. Okay, so again, he's inverted the story. So let's go ahead and go to the bottom here and read through this section, the while true portion, and then we can explore the different functions as we hit them, rather than reading from the top down. Okay, so when you start this program, the first line that will actually do something, these all define functions, they don't actually run them. The first line that does something is line 107. Okay, so that's going to print the title of our game, and it's going to then initialize some variables for us. We haven't missed anything yet, we haven't got anything right yet, and it's also going to get the word. Okay, so as you play this game, we can just click play here, and we can start playing, and then it's kind of fun for a minute. You can guess H, and that wasn't it, and Y, and you can realize that, like, Hangman isn't that fun to play 100 times. It would be nice to be able to test out the different paths through this code without actually having to guess Hangman every time. Okay? So how do you think we can cheat and tell ourselves actually what the word is before the game begins? What would you do if the prompt at the end of the class was have cheat mode where actually we print the word before the game begins?
Secret word.
Sure, right? We could say print secret word. And maybe we make it clever, right? Like, right, we could do some string formatting here. You see? Right, so now we can sort of play around, like what happens when we can start to get letters right? Does that work? Oh, D, that works. O. And you'll be able to see more of this Hangman game than I am because your font won't be so large. But if you want to try to win, this is a great way to test out the, yes, okay, I've won, great. You'd be hard-pressed to execute that line of code without knowing the word ahead of time. You'd have to play Hangman several times in order to make sure that you print this out correctly. Okay, so as you see, that's kind of how we play around, and let's be done with that. Now, notice here I've got a game is done flag and then a while true. So the game is going to continue until the game is done, and like we talked about with loops, you have this idea of a while and a for. Those are the two loop structures, and for we use when we know how many times we want to go through something. I don't know how many times I'm going to play Hangman. That's up to the user. So there's no sense in saying for x in range 100. It's unlikely someone wants to play the game 100 times. Well, instead just say while true, and then use the break keyword once the game is done to actually leave. So here we go. Now this is the main game loop, right? And here's what I mean in terms of reading it like a book. I can say display board, and then I don't have to jump right into this display board function. I can just kind of believe it. Yeah, sure, this displays the board. If I want to change how the board is displayed, I'll probably go to this function. But it's self-explanatory, right? It's going to somehow display the missed letters, the correct letters, and it needs the secret word to do that. Yeah? So then we can go ahead to the next part. The next part is getting a guess. Okay? The get-guess function handles that, and it needs a list of all of the previous guesses, because get-guess, if we went to it, it would actually prevent you from guessing the same letter twice. So that is a combination of all the missed letters and the correct letters, all your guesses, essentially. Okay, so you're going to get the guess. If the guess is in the word, right? If it's in the secret word, then it's a correct letter. So I'm going to put it on the end of the correct letters list. And there's a chance that that's the last letter needed, right? If found all, then we're going to check to see if we found all the letters. And that requires a for loop now because we know how many letters there are in the word. It's not a while loop. I'm not doing something forever or for an undetermined amount of time. I am looking at each letter in the word and seeing if I've guessed it. If I found all the letters, if I end up getting that correct, then yes, and the game is done, and that is true. Otherwise, it's not in the word, and therefore it's part of the missed group. And now there's something to check here. Have they lost, right? So if the letter is successful, there's a chance you've won. If the letter is not successful, there's a chance you lost. Okay? So here we go. We're going to check if we've lost. And in both cases, the game is done. If you've won or lost, the game is done. In the common case, it's just one guess out of many, and we continue to play. All right, so that's all part of this while true loop here. Okay, we can actually, right, you see while true. Okay. Now, if the game is done, if I hit one of these flags here, if the game is done, then I need to know, is the whole interaction done? Right? Is the player leaving me and they're ending the game? So I ask the player if they want to play again. Right? If they do, this play again function is going to return a true value, and this if statement will execute. Otherwise, play again, somehow play again is asking the user whether they want to play. We can explore how it works, but play again is going to be false. And then I'm going to hit this line break. And break means leave the current loop. And the current loop is, of course, this while true. So leaving that loop drops me down to past line 148, and that's the end of the program. And so then we're done. Okay? You can then go back, after you've read through this and understood the general structure of the program, you can go back then and look at any one of these particular functions. Like, how do I do the play again? Right? And so you can actually use some of the PyCharm tools to actually find this function if it's in a different file. But it's just right up here, play again. And then you can go and go, oh, that's how you do play again, right? So that's how I'd recommend you read this source code. Start at the main chunk, and then as you go through it and want to find more detail about one of the functions, then go and read it. It's almost like these are footnotes, right, or an appendix. And so I'd recommend you read through, first of all, ignoring all the footnotes and appendices so you get a flow of the story, and then go back with a fine-tooth comb and understand each one of these functions. All right? And the book, it doesn't just give you this code as a dump, right? The book goes through each of these just as I'm doing in text form and explains each one of these lines as well. So please go through and use the textbook to help you sort out these functions. All right, so any questions? All right, why don't we go ahead and try some practice? Why don't you go ahead and get Hangman running on your PyCharm? I mean, you should already have done that, but if not, go grab the code and put it in there. Okay. And let's change it so that the user can only play 3 times, maximum number of 3 times. If they don't want to play 3 times, that's fine. They can say no, but we don't let them play any more than 3. It's like you got to let someone else have a chance. So let's see if we can do that modification. So I'll give you a few minutes here to grab PyCharm and do that. Let's say 5 minutes, and then I'll ask 1 or 2 of you to share your screen and walk us through what you've done. Okay. Any questions? All right then. So it's a 11:18. We'll touch base and see if you can't get the maximum number of plays to be limited to 3.
Sir, could I ask a question about the hangman code?
Yeah, go ahead.
On line 40, it's using a variable called word list, and I'm just confused on where that variable is coming from.
Okay, so you said line 40?
In the book, it says line 40.
Okay. So you've got words here, and this is a string, right?
Yes, sir.
What I would like to get is an array where the first element is and, the second element is baboon, the third is badger. You see? The syntax
Right,
for... Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I understand the dot split function, but I mean in the get random word, like I get the word list as a local variable, but I don't understand how it's associated or like what value it has at this point.
Okay, so
code.
Right, so it's impossible to know. Like if you're reading through from top to bottom, line 62, you get here, and you're like, gosh, I guess if I had something called word list, I could do something with it. Right? We need to actually go and find the usage of random words. So we'd have to go down here where it says get random word. And then it's passed in the variable words. You see? So if we put a breakpoint here and then run our code. Okay? You see, now I'm getting this list words. And words is the thing that's all the way up here.
Right.
Right? So words gets passed into get random word. Sorry, now my screen is too cluttered here. And the name changes from words to word list.
So where does the name get changed? Oh, so get random word it passes in words and then it gets changed to the local variable word list.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I understand. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have a question as well, Professor.
Yeah.
So I went through and typed all the code line by line, but so I'm not getting any errors when I run it, but I'm also not, like, nothing's pulling up when I run it. So, like, the hangman picture or, like, the prompt to enter anything isn't coming up.
Okay, well, can you share your screen then and we can take a look? Let me
Yeah.
turn on your capability here. Okay, try it now. Okay, so if you scroll down at the bottom there of your... Okay, we'll go up. Up a little bit. Okay, line 84 there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so print hangman, that looks like it's indented. And so if you scroll up higher, what level of why is that indented? So keep going up all the way to the top. See, you've got def display board. You see how 46 is all the way to the left margin?
Mm-hmm.
Now you want to end def display board, so go scroll down. At some point, def display board is over. Right? Too far. You see, without squiggly braces, indentation really matters. What you're showing me is that line 84 is still part of that original function display board. And def play again is actually a function defined inside of the function.
Okay, so I need to unindent it.
You need to unindent a lot of this stuff, right? So go all the way to the bottom of display board. You see, now where's the end of display board? Probably line 66, right?
Yeah, so this stuff needs
Everything
to, like,
past that
everything
should be...
from here on needs to be, the indentation needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right, so heard from Marco in Brooklyn here. How about Maria? How's your hangman looking?
Sir, it's looking pretty good. I'm a little confused about an error message I'm getting for the very first line, import random. It says, like, press control period in order to select it.
Okay, why don't you share your screen and we can sort that one out too.
Okay. Can you see it, sir?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when I type in random, it's like
Okay. Yeah. That's good.
That's good.
Oh yeah, that's just showing you, like, hey, here it's trying to help you out. Like, there are a bunch of libraries, and and so if you didn't want to type the full word random, you could select one of those.
But then when I, like, it's
now we still have an error, right? But that error isn't on line 1; it's on line 2. You see what's underlined in red there?
Oh, okay.
So if we look, you can see if you put your cursor over that red squiggle, it'll tell you.
Oh, okay.
Right? And the problem is you've got a space there and not an underscore.
Oh.
So then you've said that there's a variable called hangman already, and somehow that's related to pix, right? What you want to have is a single variable called hangman pix.
Okay. I guess I missed that. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Kyle, how about you? How's it going?
It says it finished with exit code 0, but like nothing came up when I ran it. Like it just says that, it doesn't like play.
Okay, so check your indentation just like Brooklyn, right? Make sure that the functions end. The most common problem there is that you've got some indents indicating that all of that code is part of a function, and all you've done in your whole program then is define several functions and never actually done anything. So the lower chunk of code should be at the left margin.
Can I show you? And
Yeah, of course,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
see if maybe something's wrong. Like, could I show you and if you could see if?
Yeah, please do. Please, yeah.
Okay. Can you see?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So down here, this is all the words.
Okay, so now you've changed the structure of the words so they're actually separated by new lines and not spaces.
Should it be spaces?
Yeah, no, like in the book, the gimmick he uses at the end is a dot split, which then turns that long list of words into an array, which is what you're going to need. So yeah, it looks a bit silly with it all on. Now you can.
So you can still use this triple thing, but you want like it should almost take the shape of like a square, I guess, because you're gonna have to. You can't just keep typing off the screen, right?
No, you do need to be able to type. Yeah, that bar on the right is just a code style suggestion saying that hey, it's a little weird for you to have a line of code that's that long. Now don't do this, right? What you're doing here is writing the list in a specific format, which then allows you to easily switch it into a list by saying that hey, there's a character that splits all of these into a single space, right? You have space and then a new line like space /n.
Yeah.
So at this point, I mean, the only reason he does this trick is that the number of characters you have to type to actually write a string list is quite a lot because you have to put quotes around each element and then a comma between them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you could do that, but it would take
Try and paste it one more time, just the thing of words. See if that works.
Yeah.
Just copy and paste it.
Yeah, that won't fix your problem, but it's something that will cause problems later on.
You said like that? It won't work?
Yeah, well, somehow the way you're copying and pasting here is introducing all these new lines. Go ahead. I mean, this make sure you switch it to a triple quote.
Yeah.
Right. There you go.
I would try to do it automatically.
Yeah, PyCharm tries to get too fancy with guessing your intent. All right, just leave that for now, and what you'll find is that some of the words that you get might be a little more than one word, but yeah. So scroll down now, and you're keep going.
So this is the thing I didn't know where to do it.
Okay.
I just did it above the play again. I tried to initialize like a start your variable 0.
Sure, but here we go. On line,
play the game.
yeah, but on line 84, we have the same problem that Brooklyn had, right? That play again is actually just a 2-line function, but here you've put line 94 indented so that that's not actually going to run by itself. It's part of the play again function.
So this has to be like that.
The whole thing there, everything there has to be unindented by 1. So you can highlight and just say Shift Tab.
Okay.
To pull everything over 1 indent.
This has to probably be over, right?
Yeah, so just highlight everything here and say Shift Tab. Good. Right? And now, so play is not defined because you called it plays with an S.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah.
So now it's working. Thank you.
Now notice like already you're getting some weird stuff here, like missed letters. You've got 4 underscores by itself.
Yeah. So it's pulling that from somewhere.
It's because your list isn't built quite right. That thing at the beginning where it's all on separate lines.
Yeah. list?
That word list? Yeah. Go ahead and hit backspace. Yeah, put them all together.
Just like a huge line like that? Okay.
So this is just a text file, and PyCharm is kind of adding some annotations to the text file to make it helpful to you. But there's nothing saying that, hey, you can't have super long lines in a text file.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, perfect. And now try to run it again, and I think you'll see that it looks a little better. Oh, we still got... I don't know, there's something else going on there. That's split. Yeah. Well, we can look at it
Okay.
later, but that's not too important. All right, so you can go ahead and to put your screen back. Let me show you for the exercise. I want you to all use the same reference copy of the code. So let me show you again how to get that, and I'll post a link to it in the class chat. Let's see. So I'm gonna put this link here. Okay, so that is the reference code I'm gonna expect you all to have. You can just say Control A, Control C, like copy the whole thing over to PyCharm. You should be able to run it. It should just be the generic thing. So let me just make sure everyone else has had a chance to talk. Let's see, Riki, how's it going for you?
Good. I was able to get it to work. I was having a little bit of trouble, and then you're talking about the indentation stuff.
Okay. Good. And Jack, how's it going?
Good. I'm working on indentation. I think I almost have it up.
Okay. And Greg? Greg. No video, no audio. All right. Well, hopefully Greg is... Oh, there he is.
I'm sorry, sir. What were you saying?
How's your code looking? Are you able to run it? Do you know how to do the maximum number of 3 plays?
I'm still working on it. I did the copy paste thing from the book to try to get the source code and kind of messed it all up. So I'm still trying to work through it to get it to run in the first place.
Okay. So again, like here, sorry, something else. Control A, Control C, and then we can come into this PyCharm. Whatever you have here, you can just hit backspace and then Control V, and all the stuff should be preserved, right? The super long line of text is here without weird new lines or anything like that. And then I can click run, and it should look good. Okay. So do make sure you can copy and paste. Okay.
Wait, sir, how do you get the text file again? You just look it up on GitHub?
Yeah, I'll also put the link in the class chat. Yeah, if you look at the styled versions, once we get to like the web, we'll talk about HTML and how that works. There's a lot going on here. If you try and copy and paste this, it's kind of a mess. You can get yourself into trouble. So if you click up here and say raw, it will remove all that formatting and just give you the straight text. Okay? And I mean, I think the best thing to do as you're learning is actually type all this stuff and understand what's going on. But in order to just do this lab, click raw at the top, Control A, Control C, and get it to run. Okay? So let's go ahead and figure out how to get this thing to limit the player to 3 times. What's going on right now that doesn't limit it? Where's the loop that says run this forever?
The while true.
That line 112, right? So my first thing to look at here is, well, where is the loop that is allowing the user to play multiple times? And here it's while true. And the only way to break out of this thing is if the game is done and the user does not want to play again, that's when we break. Okay, so rather than a while loop, which is, I don't know how many times I want to do something, why don't I just replace the while true with a for num games in range 3. This is a for loop that will run 3 times, but there's a chance that I could leave early if the player doesn't want to keep playing. Break is what got me out of the while true loop. That could go run infinite times. This can only run 3 times, and I have the option of leaving early. Okay? I don't care what this name is here. And I guess it's really a game num. It's gonna be 0, 1, and 2 if you're curious. Like, you could say print starting game number if you wanted to show the user how many times they've played, I guess. But that's really not part of the question. It's just changing the loop structure from something that can run infinite number of times to something that can only run 3 times. Okay? So what I'm looking for here is not a ton of code, but I'm looking for an understanding of Python. And perhaps that's actually harder, right? So don't be lulled into thinking this is super easy because it's just one line. But if you, and now, I'll go through it and grade however what you've got. It's not like I'm just going to run it and if it doesn't work, I'll give you a 0. But if you find yourself writing 50 lines of code, think again. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. There's a bunch of ways to do this, right? You could say, you know what? I'm going to keep this while true, but I'm going to make a variable called game number, and it's going to be set to 0, and then I'm going to increment this thing. Game number equals game number plus equals 1 if game number is greater than or equal to 3, break. Right? So you could do it yourself, right? Keep the while structure and do the index variable yourself. It doesn't matter. Although I think the for loop maybe makes it, is a bit simpler. Good? Okay.
Sir, can you just show which while true that was again?
Yeah, there's only one while true, right? There's only one loop.
Okay.
So regardless of how deep you are inside an if statement, notice that the break comes in here inside of an if, and this break comes inside of a nested if statement. The break refers to the current loop. This is a conditional. There's no loop here. So it breaks you out of whatever loop you're in. This break doesn't end the game. What does it break you out of?
Asking for another letter to guess.
Line 124 here, right? You just go up however high you need to see a loop. So what's this doing here? For I in range, lens secret word. Maybe we can look at this. How does this work, right? Check if the player has 1. All right, so we're going to be optimistic. Notice how you're using these variable names that indicate their use, right? It's not just X or Y or T. Found all letters is true. We can kind of take the benefit of the doubt and say that must be tracking whether or not the user's 1, essentially, right? If they found all the letters, they probably 1. So we're going to be optimistic. And then we're going to go through. And what is this range lens secret word? How do we read that?
it's going to go through every letter in the secret word. So the length of the secret word, if it's like a 5-letter word, and then the range, 0 up to that index.
Right. So we could say for letter in secret word, in which case letter would take on the value of each letter in the word. Here we're going back to like the C idea of a for loop, where we actually have an index variable that starts at 0 and goes up to some number, right? And we do that by saying this range of the length. And then we in line 125 ask, hey, is the ith letter in the word in the group of correct letters? If it's not, if the word's donkey and I've only guessed A B C D or A B C F, then D is not in the correct letters, and therefore I'll drop into line 126 here, and my flag that was true now becomes false. Okay. Why do I have line 127 here? If I remove that, will the game still work, or will something break? Kyle, what do you think?
If you don't break it, it'll just keep going, right?
Sure, yeah. If I don't have this line 127, I'll go back up into here, and I'll run through this again. Is that problematic? If it is problematic, what's the problem? And if it's not problematic, then why can I get away? Why would I put it here anyway? Like, what's the role of this 127?
Will it not get to the? Will it still check if you found all the letters?
Yeah, like say the word's donkey, and I've only guessed ABC.
It should run again, so you can guess another, right?
Well, this is only now you're thinking about like the Hangman game in its glorious entirety, right?
Okay.
I'm just talking about this little loop here where I'm going through each letter in this word and trying to figure out if you found all the letters. Like once you found that the D has not been guessed, is there any reason to check the O and the N and the K and the E and the Y? Like, is there any hope that they've won if the first letter is wrong?
I think it's no.
Yeah, right. There's no reason to suspect that the user might have somehow won if we already know the first letter is wrong, right? If they haven't guessed a D yet and the first letter of the word is D. So break here is just an optimization. It's saying, hey, there's no need to run this code to check if the other letters in the word are right. I know the first one's wrong or the second one, whenever you hit this line. There's no reason to keep checking.
It's just breaking the for loop, though. It's not breaking to the end of the game. Right?
No. It's just saying that, hey, you know what? Found all letters is false. I've declared that you haven't won, and I don't need to keep checking the rest of the word.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Once that flag has been set to false, I don't need to keep going through and be like, yeah, you super lost. Oh my God, you didn't get that letter either, you fool. You lost, or not lost, I guess, but you haven't won yet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay? So you could remove this line and everything would run the same. Your computer would just do a little bit more work by checking things that aren't necessary to be checked. All right, so go through this and make sure that I don't know, you understand these lines of code. I'm a little nervous here. I'll be honest. I think we need to spend some time with the book here. Okay, so I'll tell you now the prompt here. The thing you're going to do is traditionally you just guess. You put us a single letter and you're told that's a guess. Now what I want you to do is be able to type the word hint, H-I-N-T, and hit enter. And Hangman should print out a letter that's actually in the secret word. It doesn't matter whether you've guessed that letter or not, so it could be a useless hint. And it doesn't have to be a random letter in the word. You could always just pick the first letter in the word. But if the user types H-I-N-T rather than a single letter, you should display a hint. And the hint would be a correct letter. It doesn't have to be a random letter. It doesn't have to be a new letter that I haven't guessed yet. And I'll give you a hint for your hint. Okay? Where you should start looking to put this code. And get guess here, that's where we run the line input. You see, guess is input. You're doing some questions, some ifs based on this guess. Okay, maybe you need another condition here. And if they request a hint, you should still get a guess from them as well. So get guess should still always return a guess, but there's some code you should put in this area here to handle the special case when input is equal to hint. Okay, and I will see if I can put together a little like GIF screen recording of the game in action with this new functionality, just to make sure that's clear, the operation. Okay. So you can work on that from now on until the beginning of class. I'll give you the first 20 minutes of class tomorrow to continue to work on it, and then you'll upload your modified hangman.py to Google Classroom. Okay? All right, we got like 1 minute left here. Any questions? Okay. Please reach out to me and explain any issues you're having or technical difficulties, conceptual issues. And we can structure the class and lectures accordingly. But without your feedback, it's very hard for me to know what is useful and a good presentation mechanism. Okay? All right, that's all I've got. Have a good day. I will see you in lab tomorrow.
So just clarifying, the thing we're uploading is the code with the game feature added?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, could I ask you a question about the in command, like for blank in blank?
Yeah.
I read it in the book, but I just want to clarify it. It doesn't seem like it matters what the word is after for, like for anything in blank. Is that just always going to iterate it by letter through the string?
Yes.
Okay. And does in only work with strings?
No, it's actually anything with a list. So a string can be considered a list. It's actually a list of characters.
Right. And then, so what is, like, the example they gave in the code was like for letter in missed letter. Is letter just increasing by one every iteration, or? No,
letters actually, so you can imagine, in C, your code would look like this. You would say for I equals 0, I is less than, I is less than, length of string I plus plus, right? And then you would have to say something like letter equals string I.
Right.
Right? And then you would do something with letter. Right? I is actually not used in your logic later on. You're just trying to get this letter out of the string.
Right.
Right? So you would say something like if letter equals A, then do something interesting. What we really want is the ability to go through the letters in the string. So Python simplifies the syntax here by saying forget about this index variable I and plussing it and everything else. Of course you want to go one by one through this string. So you would just say for letter in string. And then letter would be, you would automatically get this for free. That letter equals the ith element in string.
And it could be, you could write anything after the for, like it could be like for element is okay.
Yeah, it's just a variable name.
And as long as the thing after in is a list, it'll just go through that list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for in
Okay.
Right, it can be absolutely anything.
Okay. I understand. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, sir.
Oh, all right, great. Talk to you tomorrow.
Sorry.